So, how's everyone's night? Hello, everyone. Okay, guys, so it seems like we're going to start now. Welcome to the member engagement webinar. All right, so now we're going to introduce ourselves. So, my name is Russell. I am the MD&E Club Building and Revitalization Chair. I go to Cypress College, and fun fact about me is I love watching food videos on YouTube.
Hi, my name is Randall Bellier. I am on the MD&E committee also. I am the professional development chair. I go to UC Berkeley, and my fun fact is that I have a twin.
All right, hi, I'm Natalie Liu. I am the Communications and Marketing Committee Internal Relations Chair. I attend Mount San Antonio College, and fun fact, I have no idea how to ride a bike.
All right. So now that you know who your hosts are, let's get started. So first off, what is member engagement? Member engagement is an interaction between you and your members, and it focuses on the aspects of recruitment and retention. It's also how you communicate with them and present yourself to them and how you get them to be involved in your club. Why is it important? Well, members are basically the building blocks of your club and our entire organization. Without them, we would have no one to form new connections with, host events for, or work with for a greater cause. This webinar will go over how to get engaged members, how to keep members engaged, the do's and don'ts, and a few resources that you can use. And also, if you have any questions during the webinar,
All right, so I will be talking about how to engage members in the first place. So basically, this will be going over Tabling 101 and more. So tabling is the initial interaction, and it's basically the first interaction that you'll get with potential new members. So how to approach new potential members? One thing is that just to reach out to people who walk past or look at your booth. Generally, those are the people who actually do show genuine interest. And honestly, sometimes they will be standing pretty far from your booth. So just saying hi to them and waving at them is fine. It can seem a little bit awkward to do that, but trust me, it does kind of invite them in to actually start asking some questions and get to know more about the club. So when they kind of come a little closer and want to get to know more, be sure to introduce yourself to the person and ask for their name. That kind of closes the gap between you, besides the table. And as you're doing that, it's not necessarily a good idea to actually discuss your position just yet. The reason why is because you do want to get to know them on a personal level, and kind of mentioning your position might actually kind of widen the gap between you. So then once you get their interest, just kind of educate them a little bit on Circle K using a 30-second pitch. And that 30-second pitch should include the 3 tenets. So the way I like to imagine it is that imagine you're in an elevator and there's someone who's interested in Circle K, but you only have time from between floors to actually pitch it to them. And so then, once you catch their interest through that 30-second pitch, you can start a conversation with them and kind of relate Circle K to them. The more personal the interaction between you two, the more likely it is they'll come back and go to the first meeting. So after your pitch, ask them what they're looking for in a club. So basically, people do look at clubs for different reasons. Sometimes they do want to genuinely give back to the community and do community service, but they also have other reasons like, oh, I just kind of want to be more involved on campus, or I just want to make some friends. So then doing that, you can actually start to relate Circle K to what they like to see. And also one tip is to try to actually remember their name. The reason being is that if you actually remember their name by the first meeting and you do kind of you do remember them, then it'll actually make them feel a little more special. It'll give them a little more reason to stay. So then one tip is to actually try to include their name at least 3 times during the conversation. That way you'll have an easier time remembering it. Also, what I think helps is sometimes finding something special about them as you're talking to them. Don't do so. Just try not to be a little more subtle about it. So if they're wearing a cool shirt, or if they're they have some cool makeup, you can try to put that to memory, and that'll make it easier. Another thing is that you can try to reach out to them when an event is happening and personally invite them. That does kind of make each member feel a little more special because you're putting in the effort to remember who they are, and also you're making them feel like they really do matter and that you do appreciate what their interest. Another thing is that if someone is clearly disinterested or is in like a really big rush to get to class, just leave them be. Don't push Circle K onto them and just keep and continue like trying to force it onto them. And because like remember, you are representing CNH Circle K, and that can give the club a bad image. Also, if that does happen or they're a little bit rude, don't take it personally. It's not a reflection of you or like the club itself. So yeah, just remember to be friendly but professional. So your general body meetings, they're generally your most attended event, and that's because people usually have the time to go to these, and also, it's usually on campus, which gives people a little more reason just to go. So then your meetings are basically an opportunity to show things other than just announcements. So then you can have fun with what you want to do at the meetings. And some examples are like you can play games like Kahoot or Jeopardy. I do know that like a game called Quiplash tends to kind of tends to be pretty fun for members. You can also have people, write out nice notes or like affirmations for each other. So then to do that, you can just have members bring Post-it notes to write affirmations for each other throughout the meeting. And members can also bring pre-written notes. If you are hosting your first general meeting, then what you can do instead of that is to have kind of group people together and have them write on like Post-it notes their first impressions of each other. And then you can also have guest speakers come as like an incentive for people to attend your meetings. One way you can do that is by inviting Kiwanians who can actually give the opportunity for members to kind of network depending on what their major is or what they're interested in. So then that will kind of get members wanting to come. Another thing is that you can have other student organizations on campus come because there are people who are genuinely interested on being more involved on campus. So then you can invite groups like UNICEF, cultural organizations, some other service clubs that might have other volunteer opportunities. And basically, you can also have other reps of these clubs come speak at the end of your meeting. Another way that you can get people to come is that you can host socials before or after your meetings, or both if you like, just to kind of get to know your members. Remember, these people should be your friends. So then one way you can do that is just that you can get dinner after your meeting or go on a boba run together just to get time to bond with your newly joined members or with your current members.
Great. So now that you have ideas of how to recruit new members and get them involved in Circle K, you can move on to how to keep those members that you've gotten throughout the recruiting process. So one thing that you can do is to have service and socials throughout the term. So it's a good idea to have a steady and consistent amount of events for people to go through. By doing this, you can cater to people who have very different schedules. For example, not all members can attend events that are on specific days of the week or at specific times of the day. So by having a wide array of things for people to go to, you're better able to cater to your membership. It's also good to create some kind of public calendar for your club to use, such as a calendar on a website or a Google Calendar, so that anyone can see what you're up to and where your events are in case they're not able to attend and find that information out for themselves or otherwise. So another way that you can incorporate service and socials is to have socials that are both large scale or also ones that are just more generally laid back. A good point of a social is that members get to know each other and to bond. And so while it is a services organization, it's important that they have more low-key opportunities to meet each other. And this allows them to get better memories and friendships throughout Circle K that can lead to better opportunities in other tenets as well. Thinking along the idea of socials and the fellowship tenet, You can also have fellowship systems implemented into your club. Some of these examples are a Big Little or a mentor-mentee system where new members are paired with returning members. And this is a sort of one-on-one or one-to-two sort of relationship that people can better develop throughout the club. And you can encourage one another to go to events, to do challenges, to hang out, and things like that. And it makes the experience a lot more fun. Another opportunity for clubs, maybe with a larger base of members, is to have a family system, which operates in the same way, but there is 1 or 2 or 3 family heads per family, and they are in charge of a group of members. And that family will do different activities throughout the year as well. So incorporating any of these ideas is a useful way to help engage members after you've recruited them. Another opportunity that can keep members engaged is by offering leadership opportunities. Circle K is a service organization, but we also provide professional development and leadership, which can be key to older returning members who are closer to graduating, or people who just need something, have other competing clubs and things like that. So one way that you can get members involved in leadership is by having them chair an event. This can be something like fundraisers or socials or service projects. And it's just a way for general members to get more involved with a board member who's planning an event to help them execute it, or to help other volunteers at events to help lead and guide that event. And it's a great way for members to get an idea of logistical runnings of the club and community service in general. Another good idea is to have committees for events. So rather than the chair who is running the event, essentially, committees are a group of people who can help the chair or the event take place at all. And so examples of these are impact teams, or new member installations, club retreats, large-scale service projects. So if you have some sort of large idea that you want to carry out, it's great to have a team to help you handle all the sort of smaller tasks that pile up. Like if you have this big event, you can have a marketing committee to help people publicize the event. And you can have a logistical or a registration committee, or you can have a smaller service committee or social committee or anything like that. This also works for board members, not just for events. So board members can have their own committees or executive assistants or teams that help them with their duties in the club. For example, a historian can have a scrapbooking assistant or team, or your technology chair can have a group that works with them on planning and designing and programming a website or anything like that. And so by getting general members involved in the work of the board members, it creates a sense of camaraderie and can help them better gain skills that they don't necessarily receive through service in the club. And this helps them to get better involved with people and gain skills for their lives and resumes and things outside of Circle K. One other thing that we'll bring up for this webinar is recognition. So recognition is an amazing way to remind members how appreciative we are of all of their work and how grateful the organization is for all that they do, because Circle K doesn't run without members. And so making sure that they know that their work is necessary and is great and we love it is a great thing to do. And it just makes them happy. And that's always great. So there are endless ways to sort of recognize your members. You can do it publicly by having things like Member of the Week or Member of the Month, which can be announced at general body meetings or on club social media pages, divisional social media pages, so on and so forth. You can also have appreciation posts after events. It's always a good idea to thank your members for attending an event, even if you think it's very small or low key, or if it is something very large that took a lot of effort to put that event together. It's good to make sure that members feel like they did a good job and that they're being recognized for it. So you can either do a post for that or give a shout out at a meeting, or you can send out an email to say thank you for coming. You can message a person. That's always a great idea. Another thing is birthday shout outs. So this can just be a small thing during a club meeting or again on a social media page. And it's just a good way to make people feel special and to let them know that you're thinking about them and that they're an important part of the club. So recognition in general can be something small like a thank you, or it can be something bigger like making gifts or making posts or whatever you want to do. But it's a good idea to always try to incorporate recognition when you can, because it really goes a long way in helping people feel like they have a stake in this organization and that it's important to them that they're in it and they feel like they're included and that they're having a great time.
All right, so now we're going to go into the do's and don'ts. These are just some extra tips and tricks that you might stumble upon or you might find useful when going about your term. So do number one, do treat your members like friends, not members. So it's very important to make your members feel like they're part of like a friendly environment. So you want to set that environment up for them. So also like if you treat your members like you're higher than them, you'll be sending like bad vibes, and it's usually not a good thing to be looking for. So yeah, also be genuine and try to get to know them, because who knows, maybe they'll be your they'll be your next best friend. Do number two, do have feedback sessions and heart-to-hearts. So it's pretty important to listen to any issues or ideas that your members might have, because your board might not have all the answers, and your board might be looking over some things that may be a problem, but probably won't like be as obvious. So it's very important to like keep that communication going, and let's hear your members out. And also it's very important to keep their interests in mind, because it shows that you care, and that could probably help convince them to stay. Um, Next is do you try to avoid creating cliques? So it's when you have cliques in the club, it can be hard to have your members feel included, because cliques basically create in groups and out groups that break the club unity that you're trying to build. So try anything that you might need to try everything you can to like avoid cliques from forming. A few things that could possibly help are a family system. If you don't have that, changing it up every year can help break those friend groups and form new ones in the club. So next is to be honest with your members. This is very important, because if anything happens, you should number one thing you should do is be truthful, and let them know what's going on, because at the end of the day, they're probably gonna smell something fishy if there is something going on. So make sure you keep that communication up, and honesty, and a good general rule of thumb is honesty is the best policy. All right, and the next one is not on the slide. It's do interclubbing. Interclubbing is very helpful, especially if you especially if you're a small club, because interclubbing will be can help your members like find other people outside of your club. So if your club is small, then it might help with your members stay interested in Circle K. So this is like kind of tricky, because sometimes clubs don't have opportunities to interclub, because clubs, if you can't, then that's all right. But yeah. Cool. So now we're going to move on to don'ts. Number one, don't overwhelm your members with back-to-back events. Well, if what happens is if you overwhelm your members with back-to-back events, your members might end up scattered, which is kind of bad if you're in charge of a small club, because you might have like 1 or 2 members going to service events on their own, and that's not really a good experience, especially for like so yeah, slow and steady gets double plat. That's right. So make sure you take things slow. And yeah. Also, they might feel indecisive and choose not to go to any events instead of all of them. So yeah, just look out for that. Generally, a good rule of thumb if you're like a small club is maybe have like 2 service projects per weekend is a good rule of thumb. The next one is don't feel pressured to be professional all the time. So sometimes I notice like some clubs they might be too professional and uptight, and this kind of ties back into treating your members like friends. So an environment that is too boring, that is too professional can come off as a little too boring and lackluster. So it doesn't hurt to have like a little fun and humor here and there, and that can usually like break the ice and like increase the enjoyment of your members, which is ultimately what you want. You also want to make your members feel like they're in a friendly environment, but also there are times when you need to be professional. It's all about finding that balance between fun and being professional. And for the last one, don't pressure your members to attend events. We're students, we're college students, we have a lot on our plates. And balancing school, work, and student organization is really not the easiest thing to do in the world. So if they're not down to be a 110, if they're not down to be active, and if they're not down to put in their 110%, then they don't have to. Circle K is a volunteer organization, and everything is up to their discretion. So don't try not to force them to do what they don't want to do. So yeah, those are the do's and don'ts. We'll move on to the next slide. Cool. So resources, and what they are and where to find them. CNH Circle K has quite a bit of resources, and Circle K in general. So yeah, make sure you take a look at these.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Erica. Sorry I didn't do an introduction before, but I am your workshops and webinar coordinator as well as the social media coordinator, and I'll be doing your resource section. Okay, so there's a couple of resources that you can use for when it comes to member recruitment and retention. The first thing is, if you don't already know, we have a tabling manual. So last term, the C&M committee created this nice little document where it gives you all the information and details you need about tabling. So shout out to C&M for creating that. And so last term's version is available, but there will be an update to the manual, which will be made soon. So look forward to it. In addition, the district MD&E and C&M committees are resources for you. So feel free to contact any one of us that's hosting the webinar as well as any of the members in the committees. So we've been through like what you're going through now with tabling and, like marketing to students and all that stuff and member education. So always don't feel afraid to reach out to us. We can help you in any way we can, any way we can, and get you through any obstacles you may come across. So yeah, hit us up. Don't be afraid. We don't bite. And another thing to take note of is one of your biggest resources is your members. So your members are the ones that experience everything that you've been doing for the club firsthand. So it may not seem obvious, but honestly, take the time to talk to them just about their Circle K experience, what they like, what they don't like, and like we said before, have those feedback sessions, because if you understand what your members want, you can make their experience in Circle K and their journey much more memorable. So talk to your members, even if it's just like you see them like on your way to class, hit them up like, hey, like, how's your day? Like, how are you liking the events? Little things like that honestly make their experience in our organization a lot better. It's like the small things that you always gotta hit, you know? And then moving on to the Q&A. So for the Q&A, I'll go ahead and let the host take over now, but thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, so the first question that we got in our Q&A is when tabling, how should you cater to potential new members who either have been in Key Club / Key-Wins or have not been? And this is a very good question because a large portion of people who come to your school will be, and who are showing interest in Circle K will be from K-Fam. And so with people who have been in Key Club and Key-Wins, some of them tend to be a little bit burnt out from the club, especially if they did have a board position. But one thing that you do want to note is that in Circle K, they do have a lot more freedom in the events they want to go to and the events that actually are held. And also one other thing is that Circle K does tend to have a more intimate environment because of like the we do have a smaller amount of divisions, and so it's kind of easier to get to know other people. And so these are two things that can kind of remind Key Clubbers about what Circle K is like, and like that it is a different organization. And as for people who have not been under K-Fam before, just give them the regular 30-second pitch. Just kind of introduce service, leadership, and fellowship to them, because obviously they are new to the whole environment of Kiwanis. Okay, apologies. I thought someone else would go on. But next question is, how can you encourage members to attend club events without incentives such as food or free stuff?
I think something you can do to encourage people without having like free stuff essentially is if you want to have like some kind of activity plan for your meeting, or if you want to have some kind of common activity that you already have that you want to do, I think that's a fun way to get people involved. If you have some sort of like activity to go with your meeting or with whatever event you're planning, because I think that you don't necessarily have to provide them with a service or a gift or anything like that. But if they know that there's some sort of experience being offered to them, that they might be more likely to come out.
You can also personally invite members to events. So I know for me, especially when I was a new member, when I had like the current or like returning members, board members reach out to me through Facebook or even in person, inviting me to come with them to an event, it made it a lot less intimidating to join a new club. And even if they didn't like mention food or like free stuff, it was a lot easier to like know that I had someone to take me to an event when I didn't really know anyone in the club.
All right, next question is, how can I keep members engaged when they can never attend our meetings and only get information through emails? When that kind of situation happens, what a good idea is to just reach out to these members personally, especially, and so try to remember their names, because when you reach out to these members, they do feel like they're special and like do hold a place in the club. So then this will give them more incentive to keep coming back to events.
All right, so the next question is going to be, how can I keep members interested when our own board members don't get involved? This is kind of a tricky question because if your board members don't get involved, then it's kind of it kind of puts you in an awkward situation because your members can see that they're not really involved, and so sometimes if you're president, you'll have to like step up and be the one who gets involved and tries to like get everyone together, and it's a lot of work, honestly, but sometimes that's just how you do that sort of thing.
Another thing to take into consideration when you're in this kind of situation, in this situation, is honestly talk to your board members. I personally think that communication is key, and if your board members are involved, maybe you could talk to them or like have a like during a board meeting, go over like how to like remain active as board members within like the club and its events, and or come up with ideas. If like for example, if you have a board member who's like either has work or school and they're just like busy and they don't have a lot of free time. You know, we're all college students, so that's okay. But also you guys can think of like ways to keep members going, even if there's like some small absence of like a board member. And then next question is, what's your go-to conversation starter for shy new members?
With shy new members, what I tend to do is like I ask them usually about what classes they're taking. The reason being is that, you know, we're all college students, we don't like our classes, and so they'll usually find a way to kind of start like talking a little more about it, and then just kind of like, you know, complain a little bit, and they'll kind of open up a little bit more, and like it'll close the gap between you two. All right, so next question is, how do you keep members active through the fall and into spring and summer? For that kind of situation, like I said earlier, do reach out to them personally when an event comes up. Sometimes, you know, people will forget that events do happen. And so it's always a good idea just to kind of reach out and ask them, hey, do you want to come to this event with us? Or, you know, and give them a reason to like stay. So like, you know, try to hit them up and like just kind of ask them how their day is going, reach out to them and just like trying to bond with them a little bit more.
Also, another thing is you might want to consider planning some like big activity or event. It doesn't have to be too big if it's not feasible, but maybe just some like big like hangout event that might help like that you can like hype up like before fall ends so that your members can stay interested in staying active in the club. How can I get members to interact with our social media? Well, one thing I always did when I was president was I Every time the meeting ends, I did like it's sort of an ironic like please like and subscribe sort of thing, and maybe that sometimes that helps. You could probably be like, oh hey, we have a Facebook page. Here it is. Here's how to use it, and yeah, if you just let them know personally that those resources are out there, then that might help them find it easier.
I think spotlights on social media would also kind of help. It does give members a chance to be spotlighted to the others, and also kind of gives them a chance to, get to know, just kind of see who else is in the club. Especially, this kind of works especially if you are in a large club. But yeah, spotlights can keep members like coming back for a little bit more. So next question is, how do I not scare away potential new members? One thing is just, like I said, don't discuss your position from the first initial interaction. That can kind of alienate yourself from the members. And also try not to use acronyms as you're kind of introducing Circle K to them. It's kind of a process. Don't say like FTC, say instead Fall Training Conference, instead of MD&E, Membership Development and Education. So things like that will kind of help to not scare them away. And also, try to avoid talking about membership fees right away. Money is a thing, and that we're all college students, so we understand how that's going. But yeah, membership fees can kind of scare some members away, so try not to discuss that and leave that for a little bit later.
Also, another thing to add on is to not like overwhelm your members with events, So don't be like, oh hey, we got this event coming up, and we got that event coming up. Actually, but yeah, just try not to overwhelm your members too much with events.
I think another thing. I think that another thing you can do to not scare off new members is that if you make it more about them than about you or the organization per se, that can be inviting to them. So instead of saying like, we're Circle K and we do this, you can say like, what are you interested in? And then whatever you do in Circle K, you can cater that to whatever they're interested in. And by sort of rooting yourself in whatever they want to do, I think they'll be better inclined to join in, or at least see what opportunities you have in Circle K that they want to get involved in.
All right, one question is, what are some tips and tricks to attract people to come to our table and ask more about what CKI is? One thing you can do for before you even begin is to actually get a good location. Tabling can be a pretty competitive week for, especially if like clubs are like super really engaged and like trying to recruit. So yeah, try to get there early and try to get a good spot that does get a lot of foot traffic, but like not so much where you're going to get like inundated with people and it's going to be difficult to see the table. One thing is do decorate the table. Try to make it look pretty professional, but also pretty like bright and colorful. One good thing is that a lot of clubs will do this, but you can have a trifold board that will have like pictures of your members at your events, like socials or at service events. This actually does tend to attract some people into seeing a little bit more about Circle K. And also, I find that using your club banner and putting it somewhere where like it can be displayed for everyone to see, because it is such a big banner and it's like pretty bright, it does attract some people to just kind of come in and look for more.
Also, another thing is if you keep your table interactive, that tends to help. So like what some clubs had was a little spinny wheel, and on there has like prizes that you can give out for free, you know? So like free candy, free, or if you're broke, you could do just like free high fives, free hugs, stuff like that. It doesn't have to be too fancy. Another thing is having like having your bell out and your gavel. So when people sign up, you could like be like, "Hey, do you want to ring our bell?" um, so yeah, you could do that as well. And another question is, how can you attend members? How can you get members to attend district events?
For district events, do remind members what the benefits of these events are. Sometimes they are meant to like kind of give to charity. So like Crazy Comp is meant to fundraise. And also, you know, some of the events like Fall Training Conference and District Convention, they do have benefits in the workshops that they hold and also the fellowship that's held. The workshops do include like professional development, and you know, I know that Decon does have like a career fair, so then you can get some networking done in there. So it does give members a little bit more motivation to go.
There's also all the promotional videos and posts that each committee in charge of those district events put up. I also encourage like using photos, if you have any from last year's event, to just honestly showcase to members how fun the event is. Having like member testimonials, like either during your GBMs or like as a Facebook post on your event, on your group page, also helps to like saying like, oh, like this is like this member's experience and this is why they liked it or would go again, stuff like that. It really helps like kind of encourage members to go to district events, especially using you get to meet people outside your club and your division is also a great way too, because who doesn't love meeting new people? And if we don't have any more questions, we'll be wrapping up soon. So type away in the group chat, or you guys can also private message us as well. But we'll be ending in the next minute or so if no one else is asking any questions. Okay, so one question was asked in the chat. So this person has never created or joined a committee before, and they're asking for any tips or guidelines for making an effective member-driven committee that engages members. So for me, I think one thing is to kind of gauge what kind of committee your club is looking for. For example, like my club, UC San Diego, we do something called impact teams, if you've heard of it. And these are teams where members, like a member is appointed the chair, and then they pick their own committee members where they kind of support a cause that's not already supported by CNH Circle K. For example, my club has done a committee where they spread awareness about like breast cancer, health disease, human trafficking, and all these different type of like issues that are going around the world. And they make a committee about it where they set up like a table on like the school's like quad and like kind of like share information and details about the cause that they're supporting. Another thing is also like having a guideline for committees, kind of base it off like a board, because each committee member should have a different role or a different responsibility. And if they know what they're supposed to be doing within that committee, it allows them to grow as a leader, as well as get skills and other additional like opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have as a general member. question is, how many service events should we ideally have each month? Do you guys have any input about that?
When I was when I was a board member, I did strive to get at least like 4 to 5 service events per month. I try to do them kind of like weekly on the weekends. At least one per weekend is kind of a good spot to have.
But also note that this depends on how many events you find in a given month or week, and also varies what kind of events that your club personally enjoys. So if you're unsure like how many events you should ideally have each month, kind of test it out. See if your members like more events during the week or to have something bi-weekly. It honestly differs from club to club, but definitely ask your members if they like to have like 2 to 4 events during the week or have like a weekend event as well. And another question that was submitted, what are some potential ideas we can have in regards to socials?
I know that ice skating socials around like wintertime are always really popular for members. It gives them a chance to kind of like bond a lot together because, you know, some people are falling and some people have to help them up. Another kind of social that is pretty interactive for members and like is really fun is, you know, sometimes they'll do like laser tag socials where basically because it's a very competitive environment, which does let your members kind of bond with each other a lot more. Another social idea is just like honestly, just you can go ahead and go for like a boba run together. That will give you a chance to bond together, and also it's inexpensive. You can go for a local boba shop so that a large amount of people can come, and boba socials always a good idea. All right. How do you retain members when they are on the border of wanting to be in the club but not at the same time?
I think that something you can do to help people who are sort of on the border of wanting to be in the club versus not wanting to be in the club, it's something that I like to do is to emphasize that it's a no commitment organization. So you don't have to pay fees to go to any of our events. You don't have to be a dues paid member to go to anything. There is no requirements as far as how many events you have to go to be considered a member. So if you can come out just whenever you can, whenever you want, then I think that incentive is good for some people to have, that they know that they have options and it's not like this sort of total commitment when they're joining Circle K. So I think that that can help people be more inclusive of saying, oh, I have this time that I have just for myself, and so I want to spend that with Circle K. And that can help them, even if they're not super duper involved after that, you can get people to come out that way by thinking it's what I can do. And so it seems reasonable to me to get involved.
There's also what you could do is talk to that member to see what they are looking for in a club. Each member is different. Sometimes you have members who are very, very into service events and going out to volunteer. Other members prefer social events and they like to bond with people, get to know them. And then there's also members who are looking for something to put on their resume. So leadership opportunities, anything that's kind of like career oriented for them, things that they can put towards like a job interview or like a potential like career path. It varies from member to member. So I keep saying it throughout like this webinar, but honestly talking to your members to see what they want to like get out of a club allows you to be able to kind of not like exactly like do exactly as they say, but kind of like remodel the way that you do things to make them like feel that their time in Circle K is worth it. And then that is our last question. So we're gonna go ahead and I'll let the host wrap this up.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. So if you haven't signed in already, please sign in so that you can get your hours. And so remember that you can always contact our committee chairs, Tommy Thatch, District MD&E Chair, and Ryan Hoang, District C&M Chair, at their emails. Thank you.
Remember to catch on our next webinar, which is Sekai South, hosted by Five Fun.
Be there or be square. Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. Bye, y'all. Have a good night. Eat your food, eat your vegetables.